Hi everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar, Using Colour Cards Apps with Clients with Dementia. A few housekeeping things to start with. Today's webinar is in listen-only mode, so if you do have any questions, please type them directly in the questions or the chat box, and my colleague will do her best to answer those if they're related to the technical aspects, or if they're related to the content, I'll probably answer them at the end after we finish the main part of the webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded. That recording will be shared with you and any people who have registered for the webinar but are not in attendance today. So thank you for joining in. My name is Rebecca Bright. I'm a speech and language therapist. I'm very pleased to be talking to you today about how to use Colour Cards apps with a particular client group of interest to me, people with dementia. So we're going to run through a few different aspects related to using the apps with this client group, and I do hope you can contribute some of your own ideas at the end about how you think you could use the apps so that we can all benefit from that as well. If I'm going too fast or you need to check something, let me know. If there's any problems with the volume, you can also let my colleague know, and we will do our best to adjust that accordingly. First of all, I wanted to signpost you to a special offer that's available at the moment where the Colour Cards apps are on special. So please take advantage of that. That's each of the apps on special. Today's agenda is to have an overview of the Colour Cards apps, and then look at ways that the apps can specifically be used for people with dementia. Look at the challenges and the opportunities of using apps with this client group, and then there'll be a demonstration at the end about how to use the apps in one particular scenario. So I hope that's really useful for you. As I said, do ask questions and do share your ideas as we go, as I'm sure everyone will benefit. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Colour Cards app range, there are 5 apps in the series: Everyday Objects, What Can You See? And then there are 3 sequencing apps: Basic Sequences, 4-step sequences, and 6 and 8-step sequences. They're all available on iTunes to download and use on your iPad. Right, so using the apps with clients with dementia, I really feel that there is an underusage of technology with clients with dementia for lots of reasons, but there are lots of potential opportunities to use apps or to integrate apps into what you're doing, or to try with new things as well. You can certainly use the apps in group or in one-to-one situations. It's possible to use the apps at earlier stages of dementia, perhaps in relation to sequencing tasks, and we'll go through that in more detail. And then we'll also look at some of the ways that you can use the apps at later stages, perhaps for reminiscence type activities, or I'm going to talk to you a little bit also about creative storytelling, which is something that's quite a new concept to me in terms of working with people with dementia, but hopefully of interest to you too. So here at the bottom of the screen, you can see the Colour Cards app 8-step sequencing. So just to signpost you to that. Each of the sequencing apps is similar in that you have 3 or 4 different games or activities that you can do with the app. You can either take a selection of cards and move them into the correct order. That's the first task, so ordering. You can use it for predicting, so you have the cards lined up in a sequence and the client is tasked with suggesting what happens next. Or finally, you can use it as a describing task where the cards are sequenced and the client describes what's happening in each of the steps of the sequence that's presented on the screen. So as I said before, that can be from as few as 3 steps through to as many as 8 steps. The apps all come pre-populated with content that suits a range of ages, and some of that will be more appropriate for older clients than others. And the real beauty of these apps is that you can customize that. So if you're thinking about how you could use the sequencing apps, you might consider using it as a way of sequencing tasks of everyday living, either tasks that are generic within the app, because there are things such as getting dressed or preparing to go out or unwrapping presents, so really familiar everyday activities, but you can also use it to personalize the content with particular scenarios or sequences relevant to that older person. You might want to use it as a task to see if they can sequence them in the right order, or you might use it more as a tool or a discussion point to help them rehearse what's going to happen. So to use it as a very visual method of talking through the steps about to happen. So you may have the 3 steps needed for getting dressed in the morning, and you may have photos of each of those steps individually, and then sequence them with the person with dementia, and then use that as a point of discussion. And I think this is a really nice opportunity to help encourage the use of routine and familiarity, as also an opportunity to show caregivers the importance of that as well. So a nice side effect or a nice benefit for using the app as well to work on sequencing tasks. As I said, one of the ways that I think the app would be really nicely used is to use it as a tool for reminiscence. You may be familiar with reminiscence if you're working with clients with dementia is something you're familiar with, but I think that this is a nice tool to be able to create personal content and also multimedia based content to really assist with creating materials for reminiscence groups or for one-to-one sessions. So you might either have a structured session, a reminiscence group, for example, in a care home or in an elderly care ward, or an older person's ward, depending on what you call your facility. And the real benefit, as I said, is that you can use multimedia very quickly and easily, and you can bring in images that support reminiscence for an older person. That might be their own photos, their own objects, or pictures that you find online as well. Another concept, which to be honest is relatively new to me, and something I read about only recently, and I think is of particular interest and something that I haven't explored in working with clients with dementia, but I think really to me makes sense. The particular approach that I looked into a little more was the time slips approach, which was founded by Dr. Basting in 2009. You can see it's late in the afternoon. In this approach, storytelling is used where there's no pressure on having to remember what happened, and indeed there is a freedom of imagining and creating the story. And so conversation can be prompted using a photo or an image, and it's really designed to promote conversation, social interaction, where there's not a wrong answer. So responses can be partly true, partly made up. It really is not important. So it's an opportunity for eliciting conversation and eliciting the client or the group of people with dementia to be able to express themselves and communicate in a group situation. So how can you, that got me to thinking really. I started thinking, how could you use the colour cards apps to support uh, this approach? And I think really the apps are a great way to enable this to happen. So by using the apps to generate content or to store content really, um, you're up and ready to go very, very quickly. So you might want to try, for example, the What Can You See app or Everyday Objects, where you pre-install images ahead of a session, or perhaps go online and find those images with your client that you can use in the app, of pictures that are going to elicit conversation or elicit storytelling. So in that sense, it's ready to go content, so you can use it very quickly, hand it over to other facilitators if that content's all been put in there ahead of time. And nicely, if somebody has a device, they can also use that later with their family and share again after the group, perhaps, the stories that they told earlier. Here are a couple of references too about the creative storytelling approach. As I said, it's personally something that I haven't done before, but when I was preparing for the webinar, I really was looking at what else people were doing, and I found this to be a really interesting approach. And there is more details on the Time Slips website, and the first link there is a nice article about how it's being used in New Zealand with speech therapy students and people with dementia. So some really nice examples there. Anyway, just to signpost you to those. So, what are some of the challenges of using apps with people with dementia? And I'm sure that what I've got listed here is not going to surprise you. The challenges can be a lack of familiarity with technology on the part of the person with dementia, or potentially for those that are working with them, either the staff or family members. And I found more and more that there was a real lack of iPads or technology in care homes or day centres, unfortunately. So there can be a real challenge in terms of having the sufficient technology around to use the apps. And as I said, yeah, a lack of training potentially for staff working with people with dementia on how to use the technology, and not just how to use the technology in terms of using the app, but also how to use the technology with somebody with dementia. On the flip side, some of the opportunities for using apps with people with dementia, as I said, I think one of the things that appeals to me about using the iPad, and in particular the Colour Cards apps, is that you can have stimulus ready to go. So loading images onto your photo library or taking images from Google Images that you of course have the rights to, if you have the rights to, means that you have a ready to go repository of stimuli that you can use in a range of tasks in general with any caseload, but in particular with people with dementia, it means you're ready to go and you're not fussing about trying to gather up cards or pictures or cut things out or having to take a lot of time to find the images, for example, for a reminiscence group. One of the things that is key to these apps is the ability to customize and personalize the content. So again, you're reducing the setup time, reducing the frustration levels that you might have with otherwise on the part of the person with dementia, but also potentially with the therapist, in terms of fussing around, finding content, adjusting settings. It's all very quick and easy. I think really, well, I said on the previous slide that the technology itself might be daunting to people with dementia. I'm sure many of you will have good examples of people with dementia being really quick to pick up iPads because the iPads themselves are quite intuitive and hands-on. It's not like learning to use a laptop or a machine with buttons. It's all about manipulating what's on the screen. So in the same way that I think younger people find it very easy to use iPads, sometimes older people find them easy in the same way. They're also portable, and as a clinician that's worked in the hospitals and rehab settings and care homes, it's really important to have something that you can carry around and adapt for individual clients, so that you can use the same app with different clients one by one, by using very different content to meet their individual needs and goals, rather than carrying around a stack of resources. And it's certainly shareable. Being an iPad, you can pass it between clients or use it in a group. You can use it in a group, either a small group around a table, but you could also think about reflecting it on a TV, or attaching it via your HDMI cable and a little adapter, so that you can use it on the screen in a shared room in a nursing home, for example. There are lots of ways that you can use the apps where we're with multiple people at once. And I think importantly, I think families of people with dementia are often looking for ways that they can help or be involved or have something to communicate with when they visit their family members. And so uploading and preparing content for them to use with their family members is also a really nice opportunity as well. So barriers and opportunities, and I think probably the opportunities outweigh the limitations, but that's my opinion. So what I'm going to do now is talk you through, before I show you the app, the steps that I'm going to take in order to customize content. So these are the 6 steps that you go through to add new content to the Colour Cards apps. So I'll go through this, but then I'll show you in detail, so you'll have a really clear idea of how everything works. So first you go to the settings button on the device, to activity, and then game setup, and then you can add an image. You can add an image either by looking through your photo library on the device, or by taking a photo with the camera that's on the iPad. And then you assign them a difficulty level. And then as such, you're adding to the photo library that sits within that app. So really simple. At this point, there's some screens, but I'm going to show you how to do it. And I think it's always easier when you can see it in action. So bear with me while I quickly switch over from my PowerPoint to iPad. Okay, so here you can see where in the first step, this is everyday objects. If you have a box of colour cards on your therapy shelf, or in your therapy resource cupboard, or the boot of your car, or the bottom of your handbag, there's a very good chance that that box set is everyday objects. You'll know it's a series of very familiar photos of household and environmental pictures that are familiar to most of our clients of all ages. So this is the app. Now the app allows you to view the cards. The app allows you to view the cards, as you can see here. So here's an example of the horseshoe, and I can flip through each of the cards that's available. And this is the factory content, or the image library rather, that comes with the app. So you've got a whole range of lovely images that you can use here that'd be suitable for lots of people. But if I come back to the main page, you then have the option of 2 different activities. The first is describing, and you're prompted to describe what's happening or name it. Now, in the case of a reminiscence group, this would be a lovely example where exactly what it says on the screen, tell me about this. And this image I've brought into the app. So this isn't something that comes with the app. This is one that I've brought in, an image I found online that I wanted to bring in, and I could, talk to a group or an individual person with dementia who would remember the 1940s that this image represents, and either tell me about what they can see. It might be as simple as talking about the bicycles, or it might be talking about what the women are wearing on their heads and what they think about them, the fashion, or what they remember doing at that time. It might be that they burst into song of something that this reminds them of. You really probably can't plan what you're going to elicit with an image, which is one of the things that as a therapist I really enjoy about working with clients in tasks like this. So presenting an image and having them describe it. If you're using the app with other caseloads, you might use the correct, incorrect aspects that are at the bottom of the screen. But I think probably working with people with dementia, you probably wouldn't use that at all. So you would just skip through looking at the different images and describing and talking about what's happening. You might want to record it, which is using the microphone on the top right of the screen. But again, I probably wouldn't. Unless you wanted to record it to use later and listen to yourself. I don't think probably I'd have record and have somebody listen to it back. But you might want to record it, as I said, and as a therapist, go back and analyse their language abilities, or write down what they've said, perhaps to help you with that. So I've personalised or customised the content to suit the client with dementia. I've added in content, and I'll show you how to do that now. So we come back to home, we just exit that activity, and I go to the settings icon in the bottom left that's indicated by the spanner. Tap on that, and here's the setup for the app. Before I customize, I'm going to show you a few of the settings that I would probably consider with working with people with dementia. I'd probably turn off the counter that was on the bottom of the screen, showing them how many cards they'd received. I'd probably turn off the animation, which might be distracting, or probably designed for slightly younger audience. Maybe the audio and the keytones, probably the report. So I would adjust all of those things. Right, so to adjust the content or to customize that for your particular client or the client group, tap on Game Setup at the bottom of the screen. And here you come into the photo library. So here you can see all the lovely photos that come with the app. And you can see at the bottom the picture I added earlier for this particular example. They're divided into categories of easy, medium, and hard. You can see they're all very familiar everyday objects that lots of people would be familiar with. And you might want to use some of these as conversation starters in a group as well. You might want to show the boiled egg and, everybody talk about, things they used to eat at breakfast as a child, or the toy train and so on. So you've got lots of lovely examples there that you could use. But I'm going to show you now how to create your own content and add to the photo library. So you go to the add button in the top right hand corner, tap on that, and you bring up a field, and this is where you can add your own picture. I tap on the cross, and you can see I can either capture from camera, so take it with the camera on the iPad, or choose them from the image gallery that's on the iPad. I've already been online earlier and added a few pictures into my photo library, and I'm going to choose actually a couple of images. Let's choose the picture of the dress pattern, and add that. If we've got to allocate a level of difficulty, we'll pop them all in easy today. Give the image a name so it can store it away, and we'll come back and we'll see that that's been added as another image available in the photo library. And I can go back and do another one to show you again. So tap on the plus, choose take from gallery, scroll down to the pictures I took earlier. Here's some more people on bikes, on bicycles. Bring that back. Give that a title again. I already have bicycles, so I'm going to call bicycles 2 and save that. So now I've got 3 images built into the app that I can use. So let's come back out of the settings, back into the app, and go into the reveal game perhaps. Now, the reveal game allows you to use a flip book portrayed in the app that you can turn over one page at a time and gradually reveal more and more of the image below. So again, this might add a little bit of fun to the task, or get the people to talk about individual elements in it. So here you can see each of the pictures that we brought into the app earlier, and that's now the content for the app. Excuse me. Okay, excuse me, sorry. So that's how you can customize the content. That's an example of how you can do it in everyday objects. You saw earlier there were also sequencing apps. I'm going to very quickly show you those. You remember there were 3 sequencing apps: Basic, 4-Step, and 6 and 8. Let's stick with Basic. I'm just going to show you how it works. Now that you know how to customize the content, you'll be able to do it in exactly the same way in this app. So I won't show you how to do that in this case. I'll just show you how the app works so that you can have a better idea. I mentioned before there were 3 different tasks apart from view cards in the sequencing apps: ordering, predicting, and describing. Let's go to ordering. In this case, we're using a guest account, that's okay. And you can see a picture, and the idea is to sequence that into the correct order. And in this case, you're being reinforced when it's correct. What I would probably do is adjust some of the settings and use this more as a discussion point or a rehearsal. And instead of using photos of the boy, I'd probably use photos of the person's own bedroom and have them describe what to do. So that's the idea for ordering. We'll come out of that for a second. And then we've got predicting. We'll see the same picture of the boy again, but we'll give you the same idea. And the idea is that you see the 3 pictures and then you've got to predict what would happen next. So again, I would probably use this as a discussion or a rehearsal as to a sequence that was likely to happen or was a familiar part of somebody's routine that you could discuss and talk about in more detail, or perhaps to show caregivers the sequence that person likes to do. And finally, the other option was the describing, where you would describe the sequence and practice talking about it. To give you an idea of the different sequences that come with the app, I'm just going to show you some of the options in the view cards. While there are plenty of pictures that are relevant to younger audiences, there are some also that would be more suitable for older people or for adults with adults involved. So you would be able to use those, but really at the heart of this and each of the Color Cards apps is the ability to personalize and customize the content. Okay, we're going to flip back to the PowerPoint, bear with me. So here you can see this is the screen that this is what we were just doing, which is creating new content. So it's really simple, and you saw how quick it was, and it really is that quick and easy. It's not something that's complex or takes much time. So it's easy for lots of people to be able to create and personalize content. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. We've now got time for any questions. I'd also like to signpost you back to the Color Cards website, where there's a whole lot of free downloadable resources available and ways to use the app with a whole range of different client groups. And I'll take this opportunity to remind you of the special offer. Please do take advantage. Each of those 5 apps is available at the special price. They're all on iTunes. And I'll take the opportunity to say thank you, but I'll stay online for the next few minutes and answer any questions you might have. Please do ask them in the questions or the chat box, and I'll answer them as they come in. Thanks very much. So we've just had an interesting question, which is, have we got any apps to help people with word finding difficulties? Well, in my experience, I would probably suggest looking at using everyday objects or what can you see, and use creating content related to particular words that were difficult if you were able to identify those, and either working through naming strategies, or perhaps recording the word and then having the person play them back so they could hear them and reinforce them that way. I'd say that would be the best opportunity, but there aren't specific apps for word finding difficulties in this range. But I think you could probably use What Can You See or Everyday Objects in that way. Another question about whether the apps are available in the Google Play Store. At the moment, the apps are available on iTunes, but it's a question I get asked at each webinar, and I will pass that back to Colour Cards. Somebody just asked about the slides for the session. Yes, the slides will be shared along with actually the video. So if you want to listen again, you can certainly do that, or your colleagues can watch it if they missed out this time. Okay, that looks like all the questions for this afternoon. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. There's another one in November, so please take a look at the colourcardsapps.com website to sign up for the next webinar as well. Thank you and bye.